please, sir.
I want that job.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, January 28th, 2019. First order of business, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry for the slight delay, but we're ready to hit the ground running. First order of business, acceptance of minutes, January 14th, 2019. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of January 14, 2019 as written, noting that I was absent from the meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to accept as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up on the agenda, appointments and resignations. I don't believe we have any, do we?
We don't have any, do we?
No. No appointments, no
Not
resignations?
tonight.
Public comments, citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to be heard that is not on the agenda, please come forward now.
Was I not there?
Seeing none.
I motioned to adjourn, I wasn't there.
We need to amend that?
I motioned to adjourn at a meeting, I wasn't there.
Oh, gee, that must have been
That's
JR
a
instead of
typo.
JM.
That's a
Or
typo.
JM,
Oh, there you go.
because I just write your initials.
Next up is Town Administrator Report.
I'll check.
Hello, everybody.
Change.
Couple things. So at the board's next meeting on February 11th, there'll be a public hearing on the town's submission of a grant for community development block grant funds. It'll be for infrastructure improvements, and a representative from the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission will be here to propose the grant. But we've targeted the area in and around the municipal center, extending up Brandon Road on the south to the Jericho area in the north, kind of that area, where we can get some grant money to do some
You mean
water.
east, west?
North-south. So we say between Brandon Road
Okay.
to, I call it like Chestnut Street.
Oh, okay.
That area, Pines. So we've targeted some work that needs to be done there for the water department, and we think that we can get a grant. So one of the prerequisites and requirements is to hold a public hearing, and I'm just letting you know that'll be on your next agenda. Next is the roof center, the roof project for the municipal center. So we're out to bid, and bids are due in on February 13th. The estimated cost of the project is $300,000. So we're on the street, and we're hoping that bids will come in on the 13th, and they'll be good. People will say, can you do winter roof work? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, this is the time to do it because you're not competing with other projects. Typically, the roofing companies are flat out in the summertime when they're doing school roofs. So this is a good opportunity for do this roof project. So bids are due in on the 13th. We have about $336,000. So that's the amount of money that we're dealing with right now, which should be enough to do the project in its entirety.
Quick question, Mr. Chairman. on that?
Sure.
Do you think there'll be any, like, fairly local people who might be interested in that, or can have the ability?
I have to have something called DCAM certification.
Okay.
So DCAM certification is something you have to get pre-qualified through the state. So there's possibility that there'll be local people, but they have to be DCAM certified in terms of the fact that they have to be a certain size and certain staffing and quality. And they also have to purvey something called prevailing wage, and that's the average of the union wage rate in this region. Pretty expensive. It drives up project costs.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Last on my list is an update on Paul Lane Circle Drive, the betterment issue. So the last time we left it, I had asked some engineers to give us a quote for development of cost estimate of the necessary improvements that need to be done. That's really a prerequisite for us to have the next meeting with the residents to go over the scope of the project and, more importantly, identify what the cost of those improvements would be. So the quote that came in was for $5,500. So that'll give us a detailed analysis of the work that needs to be done, and also will ensure that when we do a presentation to residents, that engineer is present and here and can answer any and all questions. So I think we're ready to go to the next phase, which is the engineering study, and it seems to be a green light. I expect that the report would be back. Let me just check and see what the date is on it.
Mr. Chairman, the cost of the estimate was $5,500?
Yeah, $5,500.
Just for the study.
Just for the study.
Who pays for that?
We do.
We can do that on a private road?
Yeah, We're not doing it to actually improve the road, so we can't invest any money in terms of actual physical improvements on it. But to do an engineering study, I'd given my word to the residents when I met with them. There didn't appear to be any other way to kind of move this logjam. So we'll pay it, if the board allows, we'll pay it from municipal expenses. Because otherwise, the project will be dead in its tracks.
Would you be able to roll that into the cost of the project?
Precisely,
For the betterment?
precisely,
Okay.
We can add it back.
That can be recouped.
precisely. That's exactly what we intend to do.
So this is how it would go forward on every road then, right?
Yes.
If other people want the betterment.
I think this road is, we'll refine the process after this, but I think the idea of us taking the initiative and bringing in an outside engineer to evaluate the conditions and come back with a recommendation. And we could ask Mr. Paletta, who's an expert on all of these things, to do an estimate, but he doesn't want to be put on the spot in a public meeting to defend costs and improvements. And that really is a job for an engineer, and that's why we asked an engineer to come on board and do the work for us. So, and that's it.
Any questions for the town administrator?
No.
Hearing none, we'll accept his report as written.
Thank you.
Next up, around town, focusing on local business, Brian Konieczny, 5 Beans Kit. Sir, come on up. Yep. Go ahead, want a little background, or?
Well, we do have a sheet from him.
Yep, there's an email.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here.
Good evening.
Hi, Brian.
Brian Konieczny. And I'm pulling together 20 years of experience in helping small businesses get through the disparaging maze of services and function for them to be able to take their idea and turn a profit on the web. I build the infrastructure, if it's necessary. I work with small companies to answer their questions and to show them where it's efficient to spend money, to put resources into a project. This all came about through necessity. I learned this stuff when I was looking for a hobby with my kids. I remembered GIMP when I was in Cub Scouts, and I wanted to have a business. I had 15 years of sales, marketing, small business experience at this time, and I wanted to do something on the web. I'm a geek. My inner geek exploded when I bought my first computer in '97, and it was $7,000. I wanted to make money off that. I became an NT systems administrator. Anyway, I got right into it. I involved my kids, and what I decided to do was I'd make hemp jewelry. I was very successful.
Did you say hemp?
Hemp. I didn't know what to do to bring a product and a business online as a hobby sort of personal endeavor that I can include my kids in. So I remember when I was in 3rd grade, and we learned how to tie GIMP bracelets in 3rd grade in Cub Scouts.
So let me get this straight.
I
You
use
had
that.
your kids working on hemp products?
No. They were hanging out with me as I was doing stuff, forming this company, tying stuff, making. Anyway, it was real successful. And what happened was, I got calls from people. Can you do for me what you did for yourself? What that was take over my market. I entered the market with a site that I learned how to make. I learned HTML and CSS. In business experience, I pulled it out and I entered a market, and I understood the Google algorithm. This was 2000. I was in tech in '98, '97, and I owned the market, so to speak, on Google with SEO and all that kind of stuff. And I got calls from my competitor, stop. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I'm not going to stop. I'm not doing anything wrong. And they conceded. And I get calls from people all over the country. Can you work on a site for me? Can you take me into this digital arena? Can you get my products found? Can you help me make a website? Can you help me have a presence? I was a little nervous, but I did. And it was successful. I have a customer today from 2005. It was so successful. One of my talents is taking a convoluted mess and making it reasonable for somebody to understand. Because you really can't do business online if you don't understand what you're doing. Business is business. Everybody has a product or a service needs to be sold. It needs to be sold away. And it needs to be sold to your market, your demographic. A lot of times what I do is help a small business understand exactly what their market is. You're making a widget, you're not selling it to that customer, you're selling it to these customers. You don't take all your money and you jump onto some marketing platform that's gonna have you over here making friends and not making money. It's my goal to be a bigger member of my community and to take my experience that can benefit small business and bring it. And that's what I want to do. I filed a DBA today with the town. I have 2 customers, and I'm gangbusters for a lot more. I want to have a business in town. I want to hire local folks. I want to teach folks. I want to work with Baypath maybe in the future, teach folks this skill that I have. Because even after 20 years of web work, web marketing, digital this, SEM this, websites, it's still a convoluted mess out there. And small business owners have one job, to grow their business. So they call somebody like me to help them make sense of it and put it together. And what I've done now is taken 5 basic pillars of success online, brought it together as something I can deliver to somebody as a product. Because selling services is hard. Service is an intangible. If I can show you something, that's a little easier. So that's what I'm doing. I'm waiting now for my prototype box of a package I can actually deliver. But over the past month, I've been doing business with 2 customers, and they're finding success, and I want more. I want to grow as an institution in Dudley. I want small businesses to think, oh, I need a phone system, I need the kit. I'm going to do business online in a digital economy. I want that kit because it answers the questions you have. It helps you stay focused, and it's a turnkey product. Customized for everybody. There's discovery. I got to meet you. We discover each other. I discover what your goals are as a small business, and we form a plan. That's one of the pillars of this kit. And we forge ahead. And I do business with folks for 6 months or a year. We have sort of contract times because nothing's overnight online. I have to build a presence for you. I have to build you a website, which is fantastic, or some sort of presence, because your small business is represented by that online. That's the first step you take. That's your employee. That's your house. So we start from there, and then we build a network, and we use techniques that work. We don't go pay-per-click and spend your money. We don't do anything that gets you down a rabbit hole of nothing and never-ending milestones that aren't reached. I very much am focused, and my plan, my package, produces success. I'd like to bring that to the community. I think I'm here today because I called Town Hall last week. I wanted to have mention on your new site. And the new site's built with one of the frameworks that I use for some clients too. It's a nice, easy framework to use when I hand management of this over to a customer. It's built on WordPress. It's a robust platform. So I called and they said, sure, you have to come in front of the Selectmen. Okay. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you, Steve.
Yeah, you too, didn't I? I saw the name, and I'm
It's
like,
a
wait
long
minute.
way since back in the day.
Yeah. You didn't have a beard back then either. You looked a lot younger.
I've had this 20-something years now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not this long.
No.
I'm past 50 now. My plan was 65 on a beach, nice and fat, with a beard down to my belly button, making boats.
You get the beard going.
That's my plan.
Still pretty trim, though. You get the beard going. That's
I
fine.
notice a lot of businesses around Webster, Dudley, Thompson, they have lousy presences online. And I've noticed over almost 20 years of doing this, people don't have the right questions to ask me. People have an idea of, hey, I heard this can work. I heard if I have a Facebook page, I can make money on the web. Not really, because those are your buddies. They're not spending money with you. You know, those are just saying hi. And we don't use Facebook the way it's supposed to be used. Facebook's interactive. You do something and you want return. Twitter's something else. There's something else. There's something else. There's a whole bunch of places to get you in front of the world. And you as a small business owner don't have time or an unlimited budget to narrow it down. You can't do that. You have to make your widgets. You have to find the best tooling to make your widgets. You have to hire the best help to realize your goal, your dream, because the company is you. So we consult, and hopefully I've been successful. I used to teach, and why I was successful teaching is I had one attribute: shut your mouth. You don't know how to teach. By nature, I'm a sharer, and I like to teach. But I had to get instruction from students to teach me how to teach. So I became successful as a teacher. And when I meet small businesses, it's their dream. They've got a limited budget. They've got a limited infrastructure.
Let me ask some questions,
Sure, go ahead.
because I got a feeling you can go on till some of us have.
Ken, I'm sorry, I could probably do that.
That's okay. Can you create a website that the client can constantly change and update
Sure.
rather than have to get an expert in HTML language?
One of the reasons I use WordPress as a platform is for that very reason. The management interface makes it easy for me to pass that responsibility on to a client that doesn't want me to maintain that. They want to do it themselves. And they can
Okay.
train a team in-house to do it really easily, and I can train you as well.
Second question, do you have, and I know you don't, I'm sure when you meet with a client, you can clearly mesh and hit it off and sell them on what you do. What kind of range of total cost, and I know it's a range, because it depends on what they need you to do. How does that work financially?
Without pay-per-click, right?
One of my products is $12,500. But you've hired me and my team for a year. That's everything. That's my kit, my product, those pillars of success, and me and my team for a year. Moves, adds, changes, build-outs, campaigns, results. I'll build you a cloud server, your own cloud server, on your property that you manage as part of that price. I'm not gonna nickel and dime you. Thank you. That's one of my kits. I have 3. One is a lot less expensive. It comes with the same aspects. I don't sell feature, I sell value. I want you to see me at Price Chopper and say hi. I don't want you to be mad at me. I nickeled and dimed you at Price Chopper. $2,500 for some. I'll talk to you for nothing.
Okay.
Call me and I'll tell you, information's free.
Now, do you have business cards yet?
I have to get my new logo. I've got 5,000 business cards with a ridiculous
So the
logo.
answer is yes and no?
Yes, this week.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I want to point out that at the bottom of the page we got, and this is very nicely done, is the telephone number.
Oh, is that my email?
And the telephone number is 508-581-0863. You just say it again for those who were grabbing a pen or pencil. 508-581-0863. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Mr. Massey?
Well, I always love seeing people stepping up and opening small businesses in Dudley. You know, this board's very supportive of economic development, especially of this kind, and I'm really happy. And services businesses tend to work best, seeing as we don't have the most unlimited infrastructure in the world, water sewer wise, to build up a big plant. So this could be good, you know, with a good workforce and being hiring local people. I get it. Even running campaigns for people too, right? So, which is nice. Telling them who they should go after. Show me more people who look like this so I can sell my stuff to.
Well, there's a lot of aspects to a business that is marketable. And sometimes business owner and even staff doesn't recognize that their tooling is marketable, that their new schwank hire from X that brings all this capability to their new capabilities, that's marketable. We can take that and we can run with that. We can have a campaign on that. And I don't nickel and dime as part. You asked me about price. If you hire me and we build this stuff up over 3 or 6 months, you get what you need. Part of those 5 pillars. When I do analytics and reporting, I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I love data.
That's cool.
I get all that data, and I can make sense of it, and I can tell you and show you in a report, or we can sit and have a beer. You're doing this, and it's not working out because this is what's going on. We need to edge it over here. That's the real power. I like bringing to a client, hey,
That's a
look what's working.
three-dimensional analytic. I like that.
Everything's holistic. If you ignore one aspect, it can't complement what you're building up later. And these 5 pillars all work together. Everything works together. And I can't ignore one little thing because it's unsexy. That's going to be well served 2 steps down the line. We built that in from the beginning.
So it's important that people know that 5 Beans Kit is not a place where you go get a cup of coffee. all right?
Nobody will sell it though if you want to do a
I'm
coffee
sure
shop.
he will.
You have a coffee
Sure he
business,
will.
he'll get you online and help you grow your business.
Some people in there.
I can help you do that if you want to do that. I can help you, yes.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Ruda.
Steve, I appreciate it.
No, as you're speaking, I was just thinking that I did try to create an online presence for a small business that I was a co-owner of, and you're exactly right. I think you found your niche if it's not gonna be a nickel and dime situation, because
You really
the
can.
service that I used, it was always just, you know, a carrot and stick approach. You need to change this for $40. You need to change this, you need to get this, you need to, you know, and it was pay-per-click. So, and
I'd be embarrassed if I went to a customer, hey, 40 extra bucks to do this thing I need to do anyway in order to
Yeah.
get this to happen for you. I'd be embarrassed.
you know,
I like the fact that you've got a range, but the range is determined by the client, what they think. Actually, it's interesting, I bet, based on what they actually need, not what they think they need. I'm sure that after a conversation or 8 with you, what they thought they need is gonna be different from what they actually do need.
A lot of times that is the discovery we find out. And a lot of times they're very grateful. And I appreciate being able to educate them because they can make better decisions. We can really get efficient with the effort we put into something and really watch that grow.
Cool, thank you.
Very interesting.
Great.
Well, I appreciate whoever it was that pointed in our direction. I don't know if it was the town clerk's office or Michelle in our office, but try to get people in. It's kind of a little bit of a lull in the winter, but every week we
You know, I
have our
just
little
had a
section.
thought. I'm glad you're talking the way you are, because now I'm thinking, what if we had just an agreeable policy that when someone comes before us around Dudley Town, that they give us a copy of their business card and we put it on to the town website for free for a year? What if we did something like that?
That would work.
There's 5 profiled businesses on the website right now. I think I counted 5. That's changed. Your new website brought 4 more. You had Pro Automotive on for the last couple of years. And that's why I called. I said, you know what? They need somebody else. And then I saw you had a new site. There were 4 other ones listed. Okay, I'm calling. I want part of this too. I think there'll be
Okay.
plenty of people that want to be part. Community's real important. Real important. So I think that would work. Yeah, I think that would be
agree.
beneficial.
We agree.
Well, thanks. Any other questions? Oh, Brian, nice to see
Thank
you
you all
again.
for listening to me.
Thank you,
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for
Good luck with
coming.
everything.
Great.
Take
Good
care.
luck.
Public hearings, we have none. License and permits, we have none. Public business or offend town clerk. With some news that some people probably don't know. and
Thought I told everyone. Good evening, how are you?
Eating Aura.
So, I think you can read. So everybody who doesn't know, I'm retiring this year, and our annual election will be held June 10th of this year. Papers will be available March 4th, I think. But the reason I'm here tonight is because I just wanted to discuss my exit. Mass General Law says that the new town clerk shall take over the position 7 days after the election, so I will be here for a week after Election Day, tying up, just doing the actions of the election, payroll, paying bills that are associated with the election. And I guess my question for the board is, were you interested in having me stay on for a little bit to acclimate the new town clerk? I'm willing to do that if that's something that you want to discuss either tonight or later on. I just wanted to put it forth. So that way, too, I know what to tell the retirement board when my my last day is for my pension.
Greg, how will we handle that?
I think it's a great idea. I think we should take advantage
Staff.
of Aura's willingness and availability to assist. I think we can have, Aura and I can have some conversations about what we think the necessary duration would be, but I think the incoming town clerk would benefit tremendously with Aura's knowledge, and we should take advantage of her willingness to do so.
Is that good? Sorry,
Go
Bob.
ahead, Sully.
Like I say, sit down with Greg and just come up with a,
Yeah, so what we do is just put together a letter of agreement or something similar to that, and then, and handle whatever the pay issues are, the monetary issues that are involved with that too, because I know as much as Aura says she wants to volunteer her time, I always feel that you need to treat
Cha-ching.
someone right who's treated the town right, and make sure she gets compensated too.
Paul,
Since it's an item on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion that will be recorded in the minutes. And that is that, the town administrator work with Ora Finn, our current town clerk, to develop a plan for an extended, period of consultation, with a new town clerk on site.
Second?
motion made and seconded. Any, excuse me, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's smart.
And the one-day permit too, right?
Yes, absolutely. You're supplying the
Already in the
champagne.
works.
I told my assistant, she's going to be running the election. I'm going to be upstairs in my office with a glass.
Good place to be.
Yep, good
Michelle,
place.
you're invited.
Thanks, Aura.
Thank you,
Only
Laura.
Michelle.
I know.
Next up, Sarah Waite with her annual request for hands, helping address the needs of Dudley seniors. Toll booth on Saturday, May 25th, 2019, from 9 to noon.
Good evening.
Hello, Sarah.
Good evening.
Hi.
Yes, so I'm requesting permission once again for our annual toll booth on Saturday, May 25th. I think this will be our 9th toll booth that we've done so
Is
far.
that the day of the Boy Scout yard sale?
Typically it is, if they're still doing it on the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, yes. That's why we chose to do it then, was because we figured there'd be more traffic
Oh, gosh, yeah.
coming through the town.
Resident Eagle Scout just nodded yes, that is the same
Yep.
day.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just simply gonna move,
No, he
since this is
meant
such a
Bailey,
great
so-
thing, all right, that Steve Warner and I work on, I'm gonna move that we grant Hands permission to hold a toll booth from 9 AM to noon time on Saturday, May 25th, 2019, at the town line between Webster and Dudley.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to grant the request. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Sarah,
Thank
see
you.
Maybe it'll warm up by then.
Yeah,
Yeah, hope so.
Dry and sunny.
we'll see after tomorrow. I'm gonna pull board member comments out of order, and I'm gonna go to departmental communications. Highway, anything you wanna? Fire and EMS?
So just to let you know, Assistant Chief Paul Konechny is graduating Thursday from the Chief Fire Officer program. It was the same program I took back in 2012. He started in September, went right through till last week. It's taught through the UMass School of Management along with the Department of Fire Services. It's every Thursday from September till now. It involves a research paper, 30 to 50 pages, and a presentation to a mock board of selectmen. So he's graduating Thursday. It's at 10 o'clock at the Department of Fire Services in Stowe, if any of the board members or the administrator are interested in attending.
Anybody wants to attend, just coordinate with the fire chief.
Thanks, Dean.
That's it? Thanks, Steve. Police? Water sewer? Everybody's good?
Good.
All right, we're gonna go back to board member comments. Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, at our last meeting, there was considerable hoopla about the tax bills, real estate tax bills. And during the course of that discussion, people came forward and admitted that they had said things that were not necessarily true because they didn't do their research, and they were said on the social media. And in the course of that discussion, I made the comment that, Donald Trump does it every day. And one of the people in attendance approached me and said, "You should have made it clear that it was your opinion and you weren't speaking for the board, which has been the case now for 15 years. But nonetheless, as a matter of record, I want to state that that statement was my opinion and not the board's. However, I will point out that the Washington Post has documented 4,000 lies that Donald Trump has made on social media. But that was just my opinion earlier. Washington Post agrees with me.
I knew you had pull. Before I go to the left, I should have had Mr. Bose speak. Should have let Bailey. Oh, look at this.
Oh, wait, before he does, do you hear the good news? He has been accepted into the nursing program at Worcester State, which has a long track record of 100% passing the tests, first time out. So he's getting into a good program, so congratulations.
No pressure, Bailey.
Hey, good news.
That's impressive.
So my first thing is show choir's first competition was last weekend. Illusion and Fantasy both got gold, and Fantasy came in third place. The boys' basketball game is tomorrow at Algonquin at 7, and the girls is at home at 7, and Molly Springer is 5 points away from 1,000 points. So anybody who can make it, that'd be great for her. The wrestling team just wrapped up their regular season and go to sectionals next weekend. And midterms were last week, and third quarter started this week. So that's
Awesome.
for this week.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh yeah.
I just have one quick one. I was a little remiss at the beginning of the meeting. We always try to acknowledge people when they have a loss that served the town. And Joe and Deb Coggins. Deb was an employee at the library. Joey was a member of the library trustees. Joe's father passed away, and you read his obituary. He had a pretty illustrious career in the town of Millbury, and I know I speak for the entire board and the townspeople. We send out our sympathies to the Coggins family on their loss. Mr. Marcy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I missed the last meeting. I missed your, what did you call it, hoopla?
Yeah.
So thanks for clarifying that. My question was, I know there was something on the agenda about water sewer. I know there was some follow-ups based on what I read. Greg?
Yes, so
Do you have any?
the board had asked me to look into if the board decides it wants to go forward with creation of a Department of Public Works, how do you do it? So I did some research, and there are really two ways that you can do it. The first is to adopt Chapter 41, Section 69, C through F. That's the non-traditional way of creating a DPW. And the reason why it's non-traditional is it establishes an elected DPW commission to oversee the department, so it would be independent of the Board of Selectmen. The more common route that's used is special act legislation, and so that would be the preferred method, is to go forward with special act legislation, which requires approval of town meeting. And I would suggest that as we left it with the consultants, the next step would be to have a public hearing, bring back the consultants and get input from the public, and from that meeting, you can then decide which of those options that you may wish to pursue. So hopefully that answers the question about how do you do it.
Did council have any thoughts on it?
That's
from them?
I spoke
Okay.
with council on this. I did the research, but then I went back to council, because what I didn't know was which the most common form was. You see the two options that are out there, and she said that the special act legislation is more common.
So is that like the home rule thing when we?
It is,
When
yep.
we did treasurer collector?
same thing.
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
We being a very subjective term, I believe that was citizens petition
The royal.
The what?
that.
Yeah, given the slight options that we could exercise in the course of coming up with a final proposal or plan, if we had a public hearing, Mr. Chairman, would we decide at that meeting, or would we digest what occurred and at a subsequent meeting exercise what options we'd want to follow?
Paul, if you're looking for my recommendation, I think there's always a good opportunity to digest. I think it's always wise to hear what people say. Sometimes people can't make a meeting and they want to provide input through email or whatever, phone call. So I always say, we're not necessarily pressed because we allowed ourselves plenty of time. So there's not a looming deadline, we're gonna kind of rush this thing through, and generally, things that are rushed through don't hold up very well at town meetings, so this is probably something we want to take our time on.
Right, I mean, you know,
Thank you.
it just makes the most sense too. I mean, I don't wanna go back to where we were at the last meeting, but I would rather have an open forum and dialogue as opposed to a rejection letter before we even had a public hearing, or a
And
decision made before we even had a public hearing.
I reminded
Public hearing.
I reminded the consultants from MRI that we really we valued their report, but we also need them to be present at the next meeting so they can speak as experts who authored the recommendation.
They've agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Perfect. Mr. Ruda?
Mr. Chairman, I have a letter that I would, if you'll allow it, like to pass around and read, if you don't mind.
Yep. Why wouldn't I allow
Oh, you
board
never
member
know.
comments?
This is Paul.
Mr. Bose?
Do I give the kid one, or is this just for us?
Going this way?
I got one coming for you. Here's an extra for Mr. Vose. Here's one for Mr. Valiakonis.
Thank you.
And here's one for Michelle.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. This is addressed to you, Mr. Chairman. Dear Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As you know, my third term as a member of the Board of Selectmen will end in a few short months. At the same time, with two potential opportunities before me, I find myself at an interesting crossroads in my professional full-time career. I consider myself to be successful in my current full-time career, fortunate to be in a job that I enjoy, and for 9 years, it has been my privilege, and it's been a privilege for me to serve as a selectman. Now, however, with the retirement of Greg Valiakonis quickly approaching, I can't help but consider the opportunity that serving my community as town administrator presents. In order for me to apply for the position of Dudley Town Administrator and to maintain the transparency and the fairness that I have always championed as a member of this board, and to ensure that all candidates are fairly and equally considered for the job, I must immediately remove myself entirely and completely from the process. With that in mind, I will resign my position as selectman effective at the adjournment of the January 28th regular meeting of the Dudley Board of Selectmen. I would ask that you deliver a copy of my resignation to the town clerk's office. There has never been and never will be a selectman elected that can be successful without first achieving the goodwill, the trust, and the support, and often negotiated compromise of the other members of the board. After all, each individual member of the board holds his or her own individual ideas and philosophies. Each member tends to appeal to a unique demographic, and as in any election, the winner ultimately represents the will of the voters. I leave the board having proposed a lot as an individual, but with the sober understanding that any small measure of success that may be attributed to me is owed entirely to the collective members of the Board of Selectmen and the great staff that we are elected to lead. For that, the overwhelming support of Dudley voters, I will always be thankful. I wish you continued success in all that we have set out to do, and I thank the voters and the board for the privilege of having been able to serve. And I would ask that you would deliver a copy of that to Aura tomorrow morning.
Mr. Joseph?
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Okay?
And that covers both ends
Okay. Thank you.
of what you've said.
Mr. Massey?
It has been a privilege to serve with you, Jonathan, and watching you get elected and, then myself, just what it takes to work together. You know, like you said, we all have different ideas, but we all somehow figure out to get it done. And, you're a big part of that, so This is a big deal for the town. I hope everybody realizes that. And having said that, I think this is something that you would become a really great candidate for that role, so this is a yay-boo scenario for Dudley, right? So,
I appreciate it.
I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
Pleasure to serve with you.
You know, I just want to echo, it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with Jonathan. He sums it up very well in his letter. You know, you're not going to make everyone happy. No one ever wins by a shutout. You don't win all the votes. You represent everybody. People can point fingers at Jonathan, myself, Paul, Kerry, John Marcy, everybody I've ever served with. People point fingers and say, at one point or another, you don't have the best interest at heart, or I can't believe you voted that way. And you let it roll off your back. The fact of the matter is, nobody gets into this position to get rich. Nobody gets into this position for personal gain, not anybody I've served with anyway. And I can say with 100% sincerity that since the minute John put his hand up and accepted the oath to be on the planning board for the town of Dudley, that Jonathan has never done anything that cannot be considered in the best interest of the town. And whether he's a lot like myself, whether you lose the vote 4-1, 3-2, or you win 5-0, I always want to walk out here and not be mad at any, at the outcome of anything. And I've never been upset when Jonathan and I have fallen on the wrong side of, a different side of an issue, or on the same side of the issue, but it's been an honor and a pleasure. And as Mr. Marcy says, I can't imagine a better candidate for us to consider. I'm sure we're going to get a decent pool of candidates. And I can wish Jonathan nothing but the best in any of his future endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate
Nothing but a
it.
good friend.
Yeah, I can say that, and a very good friend. I'm gonna take a picture of that.
So a very sobering moment on that, but as he said, he's not resigning till the end of the business of tonight. And unfortunately, we have one more executive session meeting, so we can keep Jonathan around a little bit longer.
Mr. Chair, it's
Of
not in
course.
on the agenda, but the strategy with respect to collective bargaining and litigation has to do with the Dudley Police Association, so we should just include that in the motion.
Oh, it didn't list.
Paul's good at
Mr. Chairman, with your
Joseph.
permission, I'm going to move that we adjourn into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, subsection A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining regarding the police department or litigation in an open meeting that may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares.
Motion made by Mr. Joseph, second by Mr. Marcy. It is a roll call
that.
vote.
John Marcy, aye.
John Ruda, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Paul Joseph, aye.
And we will not convene an open session. The
Right.
close of executive will be the conclusion of our business.
All right,
Everyone have a good
Adjourn.
night.
thank you, everybody, good night.